which is kind of tied into our story, is don't wait. You could start a business now. Some of you, hey, when I graduate, I'm going to start a business, do something. You could start something now. When I was when I was here, I stayed in the residence halls, the 6th floor, South Scott Hall. And my first entrepreneurship endeavor was I made 4 T-shirts for our floor. And I didn't actually do any screen printing. I took the orders, right, found out, and then sold them, and then found out how much it cost, and then charged a little bit extra for the service. So I did that. Then I actually sold hats and T-shirts at EAA. It was nice and local, good opportunity. And believe it or not, those small experiences, you learn a lot in the classroom, but selling at EAA particularly, I learned a valuable lesson. I made a lot of money in selling shirts. I lost a lot of money in hats. I overbought on hats. Well, now I'm in retail, and keeping your inventory levels, I mean, it was good to make that mistake with smaller amounts of money and to have that painful experience, because actually I gave up an opportunity to work at Shopko for a whopping $5.50 an hour, or whatever the minimum wage was at the time, to then try to earn a profit instead of a wage. And the reality was I probably earned a lot of valuable lessons that were worth a lot more than $5.50 an hour. Namely, don't buy too many of something unless you're confident you can sell it, because I still have those hats somewhere in a box, probably tucked away in my basement. So anyway, start. You don't have to wait. You can start doing something now. The second lesson, and which is also true for us, is you don't need money. You've probably heard it takes money to make money. That is not always true. Some of you maybe have an idea to manufacture something. Okay, that's going to take money. But for us, we did not need money to start our business. I'll share with that why. But a quick story, since you're all college students. Even on, you guys just had spring break, didn't you, recently? So I didn't have any money to go on spring break. But just to prove that it doesn't take money, I went anyway, and 6 of us rented a Ford Taurus. And then we slept, actually 4 of us slept in the car on the beach for the entire week in South Padre, Texas. So between renting the car, and then if your car is also your hotel room, you can actually go on spring break very, very cheaply. So it doesn't take money. The idea, the principle there is, if you really want to do something, don't let the lack of money be a barrier. And that was just one example that I figured you guys could relate to this time of year. But when we started our business, and also, we didn't have any money. Now you got to remember, we started our business in 2008. How was the economy in 2008? It's pretty much going downhill like a pig on roller skates, right? Not necessarily the best time to start a business. But actually, we were it worked to our advantage in some ways, because traditional retail was really hurting, but people were looking for deals online. And that's where we started. We started selling stuff online. The problem is, if you're going to sell stuff, you probably need some money to buy stuff, right? I heard a couple supply chain folks in the room here. So how are we going to get some money to buy stuff? Well, what we did, and I don't necessarily, if you're careful, I want to be careful when I say this, but because I don't advocate credit cards, I don't actually advocate getting in debt if you can avoid it to start a business. But we took out a whole bunch of credit cards, but we actually, because you couldn't get credit. I mean, if you were to ask the bank for a line of credit in 2008, this is during the credit crisis, it wasn't going to go over. It would probably go over about as well as a pregnant pole vaulter. It would not go over very well. Those of you visual learners, I guess not. Anyway, so getting a line of credit from the bank was not going to happen. So what we decided to do was, and we had particularly one product. I should back up a little bit too and speak to my wife a little bit, about my wife a little bit, in that I said start early. One way we actually got started in e-commerce was my wife loved rummage sales, and she would buy stuff at rummage sales for our kids. And then I was looking at the price of some of this stuff. I'm like, that was selling on eBay at Christmas time for like $40. And you just picked, was at a rummage sale for like $4. Well, you don't have to be an econ major to see that there's some margin in that, right? So I said, hey, next time you see something and you know that it sold well, buy it and we'll turn around and sell it. So that's how we learned to sell on eBay. Again, was that, I always wanted to start a business. I was a teacher. I thought it was going to be something in the summer. I didn't know what it was going to be. But all of a sudden, we started learning how to sell on eBay. My wife liked crafts. And then eventually we wanted her to stay home with her kids. So we said, well, how can we... Selling on eBay was good to learn the system, but it's used stuff. So you got to take a picture of everything. You got to describe everything separately. And if you pay attention in economics class, you'll learn about efficiency and scalability. So if you sell something new, you can list it once, get pictures once, and sell 100, 200, hopefully 1,000 of the same thing. A lot more efficient, right? So that's what we decided to do. But what products? So I knew economics. My wife knew crafting. We were blessed and fortunate to start off with something called the Cricut Expression Machine. It's a machine that cuts out letters and shapes. Teachers use them for bulletin boards, stuff like that. So that was our first product. But then it was, how do we get money to be able to do this? So we actually applied for about 20 credit cards. And then we took the credit cards and bought the inventory. We got a business license, had them ship the product right to our house, turned around and listed it on eBay. Now, granted, we did quite a bit of research before this, right? We saw that this product was really hot. Even when we auctioned it, it was a $300 machine. They would start auctioning them on eBay for 99 cents. And we would watch the price, and right at the end of an auction, then all of a sudden, sure enough, it's going to sell for $330 or whatever it was. It varied, but we said, hey, because in economics particularly, normally you can't sell the quantity. Remember the hat story? I got too many hats because I couldn't sell them. But if you're auctioning on eBay, you can control the quantity. You can auction as many as the market will bear, right? So I know if I buy these, I can auction them, and I'm seeing that there's auctioning about 20 a day. So if I buy 10, I can auction them all and have them all sold within the same day that I get them. So yeah, I'm putting money on a credit card, but if I'm going to turn around and sell it before that money is due, I'm not going to pay any interest. So between 20 credit cards, I don't know, roughly $5,000 balance. So that's $50,000 of operating capital that we had interest-free. This is where my wife comes in too, because she was very diligent and very wise in that she had a spreadsheet, and she would make sure that every credit card got paid before it was due. So believe it or not, by applying for 20 credit cards, we had $50,000 to work with in terms of purchasing inventory, and paid zero interest because we always paid it off before the credit card was due. So if you use credit cards and use them wisely, you can actually use it to get money and not pay any interest. Not that going to the bank was an option anyway at that time. So that's what we did, and we were very diligent about making sure and keeping track of that. The other benefit is you can score a lot of rewards points. And actually we remodeled our house with a lot of the rewards points, Home Depot cards and stuff. So you don't need money if you're creative. So then what we did with the profits, because I was still teaching at the time, with the profits, then we took it and used it to buy more. Not necessarily we didn't need credit then. I could take the profits and say, hey, let's buy more product. So we started with one product and slowly expanded from there. Continued to reinvest any profits that we made. And the other thing is we were able to do a little bit less money because we started off, I don't know, I guess I used the example, you should crawl and then walk and then run. A lot of people, if they want to start a business, want to take out a big loan from the bank and hope that it works. The nice thing about this method was we saw that it was working. We took the profits and reinvested it. So that was also money that you earn, which then you spend a little bit differently than money that you borrow, which sometimes can be easier to spend. And then that allowed us to continually grow, and literally we grew to the point where we had $1 million in sales and we never had a line of credit from the bank. Eventually I wanted to expand further, to take a conservative risk. It is auctioning a machine that's worth $300 on eBay for 99 cents risky? Yes. Is it a conservative risk? Yes, because I watched it for 2 weeks And every one that listed for 99 cents sold for a higher price than ones that started auctioning at $100 or $200. Why? Because if it's 99 cents, does everybody think they're going to get a good deal? So you get more people bidding on it, right? If you get more people bidding on it, supply and demand, there's some economics folks in here, right? You got higher demand, and ultimately the final price was higher. Now, it would have been risky if I would have done that without doing 2 weeks worth of research. Maybe 2 weeks probably wasn't enough, but at this point you got to take some risk, right? So I saw the pattern and said, all right, we can do this. The other risk, which is a calculated risk, is eBay and Amazon. We sell on eBay, Amazon, Sears, Newegg, our own website. And those guys pay a lot of money. Amazon is 15%, which seems kind of risky. Holy cow, 15% of every sale? But the reason why it's a conservative risk is I only pay 15% if the product sells. And if the product doesn't sell, I don't pay anything. So I can factor that into the price and make sure that I take whatever my cost is, make sure I add in at least 15%, and then list it on Amazon. And Amazon doesn't cost any money to list it at all. So in a sense, it's no risk. What I do, know your limitations. I'm not a marketing guy, right? I didn't have a background in marketing. My background is economics. I can price it right. I understand all the costs. I can price it right. And who's good at marketing? eBay and Amazon. Why? Obviously people know who they are, right? They already have all the traffic. I'm trying to start a website. Some people spend a lot of money, which is actually probably more risky, right? I'm going to invest $15,000 and try to market my own website and hope that it works. Or you could sell something on Amazon for a small margin, put a little flyer in there and says, hey, by the way, we have a website. The flyer cost me 2 cents, right? The 15% is already paid for. Actually, I make a little bit of money on my marketing. That's what I look at. Every eBay sale, every Amazon sale, I make a little bit of money. And then I market my website for 2 cents. So I'm shipping the package out anyway. And then guess what? Hopefully, and it has transpired by and large, that those customers then come back to our website, where then they become loyal, and also more profitable customers, because then I don't have to pay that 15% or whatever the eBay fees are at the Amazon. So it seems like paying those fees, and when the sales start getting bigger and bigger, 15%, trust me, when I pay Amazon and pay eBay, there's some pretty big checks, which seems foolish on the one hand, but again, I only pay the fee if I've already made the sale, and the sale is slightly more. This is where it's a calculated risk. I'm watching the profits of these auctions, and all of a sudden I'm like, we're starting to lose money hand over fist. We pull all those products off the auction, and then also at the time it wasn't at the time. I was thinking about leaving teaching at the time. You gotta remember, this is 2008. It's the Great Recession. You're gonna leave teaching, great benefits, steady job in this economy. Are you crazy? But I was watching the profitability, but here's the thing, I was making a lot of money on one product. And I'm like, well, easy come, easy go, what goes up, must come down. So, am I gonna take and quit my job and all my benefits and put all my eggs in one basket? No. So that's where we started to diversify. And our profits, we can only diversify so fast. And that's where I decided maybe this drop shipper is the way to go. And it took us a while to get there, and about a year to fully integrate. But the reality is now, by adding this drop shipper, we now have 80,000 products on our website. Whereas in our warehouse, we only have 2,000. So I'm looking, where's my gap? I can't compete, we don't have enough products. I'll partner with these guys, and here's the other good lesson in economics. Would you rather make $5 on 2 items or 50 cents on 5,000 items? It's the total profit. So I'll take a lower margin per unit and sell a lot more units. And it's a slow rising tide, right? Lifts all boats, or at least enough to lift my family and be able to eat. So It's not a good analogy. So that's kind of what we decided to do. Now, trust me, we didn't just go with any drop shipper. They're actually out of Michigan. We went there, toured their facility. They're the biggest craft distributor actually in the world. And it's kind of a funny story, because I had this idea that this would help us expand faster, but how do I mitigate my risk? I don't want to keep expanding and then all of a sudden keep having these products that don't sell, and this idea came, and then I just on a whim said, well, who would I talk to? And this guy named Ray, and little did I know he was the vice president of the company, and he came out and met me in a three-piece suit, and I was in a t-shirt, and it was at a trade show, and it was just, I wasn't prepared at all. I was thinking, well, what are we going to buy this time? And my wife normally picks the products, and she does good, and then I got involved, said, oh no, this would be really cool. Know your limitations. I know economics, I don't know craft products. The ones that we picked are hats. They're still in the warehouse collecting dust. So ultimately I said, this partnership is the way to go. Now we still sell our own product, and now, you guys seem interested in this. I don't know. So now I'm doing what Amazon does to us. So what does Amazon do? I don't know if you guys know this. But Amazon, in a sense, uses third-party sellers like us. And I don't have a problem with it, because they have their benefits. So they get all this free data, right? Amazon sees, guess what? They see what's selling. They see what's selling. And guess who's taking the risk? Not Amazon. We are. Everybody that sells on Amazon is third-party. They do all the selling. So Amazon watches all that data and says, oh, that's selling really well. That's very profitable. What do you think Amazon does? They go and they buy the product. The problem is, I'm watching, we had one product, the Silhouette Cameo. It was a fantastic seller, our most profitable product. Our profits are charging, right? And of course, this is the thing with Amazon. Now that I know, you want something to be profitable, but not too profitable. Because if it is, everybody teaches economics, profit equals entry into the market. Somebody's going to pounce on it, right? And so guess what? We were making money hand over fist. Amazon said, oh, I'm going to buy that product. And now, by the way, Amazon controls what's called the buy box. So they write the algorithm. So guess who always shows first when selling this? Amazon. And so, I mean, literally, it's not like, hey, sales slowed down a bit. Sales were like this, and they fell off a cliff. Amazon bought the product. They started listing it. We haven't sold a one on Amazon since. So machines that were hot sellers now became a half. They really didn't, because I have a website. We also have eBay. We have Newegg. We have Sears. But remember I said you don't want to quit your job, put all your eggs in one basket? Okay. This is where that partnering with that fulfillment center was, it seemed like a growth strategy, became ultimately a survival strategy. So do we still make money on a lot of other things? Yes. Our most profitable item, no. But I was sick of the ups and downs of these machines in particular, you're making big profits. So that's where the diversification came in. And again, it seemed risky, but it really wasn't, because again, I only pay the bill after it sells, which is the best way. It's best to always sell something first and then pay for it, which is the way that it's been. So, and I guess that's maybe some other advice. And this is really strange. I mean, most people, they tell you, you can't compete on price. You want to add extra value, and I agree with all those things, unless you just say, you know what? I feel like I'm teaching an economics class. But, on eBay and Amazon, these products are commodities, right? So guess what? Everything is the same, except for your service level, which that's always very important. We've always had service as our top priority. You always need to treat people right. You always need to do the right thing by people. And if you do that, it's just like regular business. If you do things right and you treat people well, people will come back and buy. On eBay or Amazon, they just give you a little score. It's called a feedback rating, right? It's the same thing. work gets out if you provide good service or if you don't. And if you do the right thing, people will come back and they'll give you good ratings. So, I lost my train of thought. Oh, we're a commodity. So if you're a commodity, everybody's got identical products. So how do you compete? Compete on service. Our service is very, very, very good. We're a top-rated seller on eBay. The other thing you compete on is price. So everybody's afraid to compete on price. I've taken a different approach, and I said, you know what? We're going to compete on price all day. We're just going to run a very tight ship. We do a couple $1 million in sales with 3 people. We have software that's pretty expensive. We did it out of our garage at first, keep your costs down. Right? We have a small warehouse, about 3.5 employees, and then my wife and myself. So that's quite a bit of volume for very few people. So you can compete on price if you keep your costs down. So we've just said, let's do everything lean and mean, and then go for razor-thin margins. It's understanding your costs real well. And if you go for razor-thin margins, you can make a little money over a lot of products. That does add up. So I guess the last thing is, well, 2. 1, pay attention to economics. Because you do use it. I use it all the time. Marginal analysis, and it's fun. But the second thing is start, in addition to the theory, get into some practice. Start doing something, selling something, t-shirts, whatever it is. If you got an idea, a small idea, make the mistakes now. Well, the numbers are smaller, and it's less painful. And the reality is you're gaining an education, a practical education. So start small. If you got an idea, you got a grand idea that you want to start, maybe that has to wait. But if you got a small idea, I mean, you could go to rummage sales. I mean, I don't know if you like rummage sales, but you could buy used stuff, list it on eBay. That's where my wife started, and she made a reasonably pretty good money for. I mean, you could do it probably in the summer, make as much as you could at a summer job. Really, I mean, there's some good margin in that stuff if you learn to take the time. So I guess it doesn't have to be eBay if you're not into e-commerce. You know, whatever it is, start now and learn the lessons now. I guess that's probably my biggest piece of advice.
What can we fake? Team, really, what can we think?